Let's take a look at the fourth leadership task. Leaders recognize accomplishments. Leaders recognize accomplishments. Let's listen to how David Cunningham did this.
That don't recognize the accomplishments of their people. So I think that the great captains that I've known have really done a good job of recognizing that. I tried every day at sea that I would come on the 1MC, what we call the 1MC, which is the announcing system, the general announcing system of the ship. And I would say, good morning, you know, and this is what we're doing today, and these are the important things I think we need to be focused on today. And then I'd ended up with my unsung heroes. And I would, in going around the ship, I would try to find somebody that was doing a job that they went above and beyond. But nobody really would normally recognize that. I would have an award ceremony once a month. I got the whole crew together. It took a lot of time away from all the work we did, but to me it was very important that we recognize people, guys that would be advanced, or guys that got you know, some special situation, or somebody that was being recognized out in town for doing some volunteer work. You recognized all that stuff, and they came up in front of their shipmates, and they got some face time in front of the whole crew. Just, it seems simple, but if you don't do those things, I think you lose a lot.
What do you think? Have you ever worked for somebody who never said, that was great, or way to go, or man, I'm proud of what you do for our team? Now again, this has to do in part with the security of the leader. If you're insecure yourself, it's hard to praise other people, especially if you're not feeling like you're getting much praise. But great leaders do this. Great leaders are constantly looking for what's good in other people, and they set the tone there. Now, if you're doing that with the people who you're directly supervising, you're setting the tone, and they begin to do it with other people who they're supervising. Or you do it with your congregation. Maybe you have no staff, but it's with your congregation. And are you taking the time to recognize people in your pastor's email? Are you taking the time to recognize accomplishments outside the church with people in the congregation? How are you recognizing people and affirming them? People love to be, they long to be, in some ways, to have somebody notice that they did a good job. You know, some of the ways that we try to do that here, we have our staff Christmas party every year. And at our staff Christmas party, we go through and try to count up and give some report on all of the folks who are working behind the scenes who aren't out in front of folks. You know, the out front folks, they tend to get stroked or have positive feedback. But the folks who are cleaning the building, whoever says anything to them? Or the folks who are working in IT to make it all happen behind the scenes, they're not out in front and getting recognized by everyone. And so we try to look at what they accomplished in that year, and we try to affirm those folks. We have all staff gatherings, and you might do this with your leadership team, all staff gatherings where we invite the staff to submit names of people, or they recognize folks, and they give awards to people for their attitude or their spirit. You know, when I see and notice somebody who's done a great job, who's a part of my team, sending them a note or dropping them an email to say, that was really awesome, thank you so much, I'm just so proud of the work that you did. And I don't do nearly enough of that. I mean, but I'm counting on the fact that all of our team are constantly looking for other people and praising what they've done. You recognize this isn't just the senior pastor's job. This is the head of the Sunday school class's job. This is the lead nursery worker's job. This is the choir director's job. This is all of our jobs. This is the lay leader's job. And I will tell you, lay people who are leaders in your church, there are times your pastor needs that affirmation. There are times your pastor doesn't get that from very many people. Maybe, you know, sometimes what we get are all the emails that tell us all the things we're doing wrong, and the anonymous notes that people leave for us, and the frustrations. And there are times that your pastor or the leader of your staff department, their hearts are just dry and brittle themselves. There are times that they feel like, in fact, every year at Leadership Institute, I have people come up to me and say, you know what, I was ready to quit the ministry. Nobody knew that in my church, but I felt like I was dying inside because all I ever heard were all the things I was doing wrong, and nobody took the time to say, you're doing a good job. Part of what I find is that you start affirming people, you look for the things that are good in them, and you affirm those things. And the more you help that person feel better about this, the more they begin to believe in themselves, the more they rise to the occasion in other areas. My wife has learned this in our home, that when she wants to help me do a better job at something, she takes her cues from how she trained our dog Maggie to do things. You know, if I start to, you know, like maybe I clean up, you know, the bedroom where my pile of stuff is, or my pile of papers, and I actually clean it up on my own, or I do the dishes one night, you know, and she's like, Good, honey, good, honey. Sometimes she even gives me a little treat, and it makes me want to do that thing again. And so what I would say to you is that with your pastor, your pastor may not be perfect. None of us are. Or your leader of your ministry area may not be perfect. And you know what? It may not be you're going to get a new pastor in the next 2 or 3 years. You may not get a new ministry director in the next few years. Part of your task will be, how do you help that person become the best they can be? Sometimes our ministry is to that person. I remember some years ago there was a United Methodist pastor who had been a faithful servant of the Lord for many, many years and done many great things, but he was at a point in his ministry where he was tired and there were just some things that weren't right anymore for him, and he was assigned to one last pastorate. And I remember thinking, this is going to be hard for that church because he's not at his peak and he's not at his prime. But I wonder if that church could understand that at this moment in time, their role is to care for one of the saints of God. And we have to be careful about that, pastors. The church doesn't exist to take care of us. Our job is to provide leadership to the church. But in that one case, I thought, man, if the lay people could just understand, this guy's got a lot of great love and ministry left in him, if somebody would just believe in him and encourage him a little bit. So remember that about your pastors and your leaders. They need this reciprocated as well.